All right. For this afternoon, I'm going to take a look at the again. It's our afternoon session, and we often look at prophecy. And I'm going to look at prophecy again. And what I'm going to focus on specifically this afternoon is some elements of the mark of the beast. Now, I know how many times we go back to this subject. I maybe should not be apologetic about going back to it if we go back to it 100 times, because the thing is, all of us believe that there are developments that are taking place in the world that if we were not Christians, we should be frightened. As Christians, we are kind of uplifted because these are the footsteps of our Lord that we can hear. He's on the way. But the events that are happening in terms of the development of the global digital financial system, all the evidence pointing to the fact that they're aiming for a single global currency, the fact that they are gradually shutting down access to the banking system, the fact that there are so many hints and suggestions of coming catastrophe in the food system, in the financial system. It's alarming, it's frightening, except that we have a God who will not leave his children alone. But at the same time, what we can see is the development of the system that the Bible spoke about 2,000 years ago. Something is in place, almost completely established, where they can shut off your access to commerce, to buying and selling at the snap of a finger. Right now, they can do it. They have established a system whereby we live by our credit cards or our debit cards. You can go to the bank this evening and try to withdraw money, and the bank just refuses your card. And you might not even be able to find out why until Monday. When you go there on Monday, they tell you that there's something. It doesn't matter. You could beg and plead something between the banks and the government. You can you until you kowtow to whatever it is they ask. It doesn't matter how much money you put there. It doesn't matter whether you brought the money in cash. It doesn't matter how you put the money there. Once it is put there, it's no longer under your control. So what I'm saying is that you have to be very blind to be not aware that we are living in this moment when, praise God, the mark of the beast is about to be mandated. Let me say this, okay? Because I believe whatever the mark is, it is around, but not mandated, not yet mandated, not yet at such a place that we are in the we begin to feel the effects of it the way that the Bible prophesies. So with this in mind, there are so many. I am on a forum where they are discussing and so many ideas being tossed back and forth, and sometimes even here in our fellowship, we have different perspectives on it. And I thought, there's something that I think we should look at it and make sure that we have the specifications correct. I don't know what is the mark of the beast. I have an idea that seems to make sense, but my idea still has holes in it, in the sense that there are questions I don't have an answer for. So I don't know. The best I can say is that I have my interest is leaning in a certain direction, and I know that other people have ideas where their interest is leaning in another direction, and nobody knows for sure. If somebody says he knows for sure, I become suspicious of that person because I don't think God has told anybody. Well, at least not yet. But anyway, in spite of this, there are certain biblical specifications. That's the point I want to make. There are certain biblical specifications. When God gives us information in the Bible, it's because that information is supposed to be taken into consideration. One person that I heard commenting on this said that the beast represents the United Nations. there are certain conclusions that people come to that when you go to the Bible and you look at the biblical specifications, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes I think people form their conclusions and kind of ignore what the Bible says, and we don't want to do this. So I'd like us to just examine some of the specifications this afternoon so we can at least narrow down our conclusions when we are looking at this issue. Brother Tony, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Why is it that so many SDAs think that Sunday worship is the mark of the beast? One particular church, State
Okay.
Line, that's all they talk about. Sunday, when the Sunday law come, when the Sunday law, so many think that that's the mark of the beast, Sunday law.
Yes. I learned a term maybe a few months ago, but I know it's kind of self-evident what it means, but I never heard it before. It's the phrase is confirmation bias. It says that most humans suffer from confirmation bias. In other words, when we get an idea in our minds, we start looking for evidence to support what we believe. And if we look hard enough, we'll find evidence. It may mean you have to ignore other things, but still you look for what you are looking for. Now, Adventists were introduced to the Sabbath through Rachel Oakes back in the 1840s, 1850s. All right, but when they began to look at the subject of the mark of the beast, by this time they had come to the conclusion that the Sabbath was a vital element in religion and it set them apart from all the other Christian denominations. Along with that, they came to the conclusion that they, like many of the Protestant pioneers from the Dark Ages, many of the reformers had concluded that the Pope constituted the Antichrist and that the beast system included the papacy. This is not an Adventist teaching. You can go to people like Albert Barnes and Gibbons, and you'll find a lot of the information that Adventists have. You'll find it in those books from centuries before Adventism was around. So Adventism embraced these ideas. So if you put those two together, the Sabbath is a special mark identifying God's people, and the Roman Catholic Church constitutes the beast system. They look for evidence, and they found a place where the Roman Catholic Church actually changed the Sabbath. And there were statements where the Pope said, where the Catholic Church says that Sunday observance is a mark of our authority. So those things put together led to the conclusion that the Sabbath is the Sunday worship is a mark of the beast. And so you go to the Bible now and you start to look for evidence to support this. And so it was put together in this way. But one of the things that happens is that when you do this, you also tend to ignore the things that contradict what you are thinking. And this is what is referred to as confirmation bias. In my honest opinion, Brother Tony, I think this is why it became such a strong emphasis in Adventism. And then, of course, to add the icing on the cake, when Ellen White confirmed it, when Ellen White said began to teach it, you know that for Adventists, the argument is over. So that is the way I would answer that question. But
David, yeah,
yes,
I always want to I just have a comment rather than a question, if that's okay. For myself, I don't really care what the mark of the beast is. I look at the prophecies like you're talking about, but I don't really care what the mark of the beast is because I want to know what the seal of God is. Because if you don't have the seal of God, you're going to accept the mark of the beast, no matter what it is. So to me, it's more important to accept the seal of God and concentrate on the seal of God than it is the mark of the beast. Because if you're concentrating on what's the mark of the beast, it may be different than what you have, and you accept it. Where if you concentrate on the seal of God, that to me is what we want. We want the seal of God.
Okay, I agree with you, brother. From the perspective of my own personal salvation, I agree with you. As a matter of fact, I would say even if a person is not certain what the seal of God is, and he has a relationship, a true relationship with Christ, he really doesn't need anything more for his own personal salvation. You don't need the information as to what is the seal in order to receive the seal. I don't think you do. But at the same time, I'm looking from the perspective of two things. One is that we are looking to see how can we tell where we are in time. And I think understanding the nature of the mark and the identity of the mark helps us in that regard. Secondly, I also think that in terms of sharing with people the things that are harmful and the things that are dangerous, it's helpful for us to be able to identify them. And this is why God gave us the clues in the Bible. So while I agree that for my personal salvation, it's not really all that important, I believe that as missionaries, as messengers of the Lord, it is important that we understand the things that are in the Bible. So, just from that perspective. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Revelation 13, and I want us to join together, or yeah, go together in reading the last few verses of this chapter. And then I'm going to try to point out a few things that I would like, I want us to keep in mind when we consider the question of the mark of the beast. Sister Da, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, what helped me, Brother Howard helped me to understand why it wasn't the UN, which made it clear to me why it's not the UN. Because if you make the first beast of Revelation 13 the UN, then the UN wasn't even established to 1914, 1945, I think, and it's not older than the second beast. And the first beast came before the second beast, which is the United States, which was established in 1776. So it can't be something that's younger than the second beast. So that's what cleared up the UN situation for me. And also, we have to warn the people about not receiving it. And so if we have a message of warning, we have to know what it is. It's not for us, but it's to warn the people so that they can not receive it as well.
Yes. All right. So let me go ahead, and we're just going to read the last part of Revelation chapter 13. Just go through those verses together. Let me go to verse 11, and I have the NIV on the right panel, and we might look at other translations. But let us look carefully at the specifications here. What I want to say is that this is the thing we have to consider. God does not put unnecessary information. Whatever he puts, especially in a book like Revelation, is because we should take it into consideration when we are forming our conclusions. So there are two beasts, right? The first one arises from the sea. He rose up out of the sea. And there's a second beast that arises, and this one comes up out of the earth. It's difficult for me to believe that the sea and the earth does not mean something. It's hard for me to think that God, this is not a human mistake or human language. I mean, I make those kinds of mistakes. When I'm preaching, sometimes I use words interchangeably, and I'm not very clear, but God does not make those kinds of mistakes. If God says sea, he means pay attention to what I said. And if God says earth, he means pay attention to what I said. It's a factor in what I'm trying to say. So the beast, the first beast and the second beast do not come from the same place. There's some distinction that God is making about where they arise and the conditions under which they arise. Most of us are very confident, me included, that the second beast represents the United States. I think that's almost universally accepted by people of our persuasion. But where people have a problem is with the identity of the first beast and how we configure the different elements, the horns and the heads and all the rest of it. Let's look at what it says here about the final crisis. It says, The second beast comes up out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. There's also a little bit of controversy about what the two horns mean, but there's not much question about what the speaking as a dragon means. I mean, basically, we can think that here we see that this beast has elements of Christianity about it. The lamb in Revelation is clearly identified as Jesus Christ. As a matter of fact, it's interesting that it mentions lamb and dragon because these are the two great protagonists of Revelation. In Revelation chapter 5, we see there's a lamb slain before the throne of God. In Revelation 12, we see the great dragon, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. The dragon is Satan, the lamb is Christ. So this beast that we are looking at is a two-faced beast. He has the appearance of Christ. He has Christ-like attributes if you look at him superficially. You don't know the true nature of this beast until what? Until he begins to speak. And the speaking of a beast, the speaking means when a person speaks, he begins to express what is on the inside. So we have a clear symbol that speaks about an appearance that is attractive, a Christian appearance, but a dragon's personality on the inside. Now here's what it says. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him. In the NIV, it says it exercises all the authority of the first beast on behalf of the first beast, on its behalf. But I've also seen some places where it simply means in his presence. Like in the World English Bible, it says he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence. I would suggest that maybe both things are correct. What if you look at the NIV? What it means is that the second beast is working on behalf of the first beast. What the second beast is doing is for the benefit of the first beast. If you look at the World English Bible, it's a little different because what it suggests is that when the second beast begins to exercise this authority, the first beast is still there. So America begins to exercise this power while the first beast is still there, still powerful, still having all his authority, but America begins to exercise this authority in the presence of the first beast. And I think both things are true. It goes on to say, and causes the earth. Now, when it says the earth here, does the earth here mean the same thing as when it says, I saw this beast coming out of the earth? Because if it means the same thing, then it means that it is not exercising this power in the area which is called the sea. If you see what I'm saying, we're in the same chapter, we're in the same passage, we're almost in the same place. Here we see that out of the sea represents a certain condition. Here we see that the earth represents another condition. And it says this second beast causes the earth and those who live there. So is it referring to the earth as the place where this beast controls, or is it referring to the entire planet? That question needs to be considered, right? It's not very clear, but in my mind, it carries a suggestion that we are talking about the second beast exercising his authority in the part of the world from which he arose. I'm not. My conclusion is not set in stone, but it's something that I think is worth thinking about. Now, what he does, he causes the earth and the people who worship in it and the people who live in it to worship the first beast. Now, the point is, what is the mission of the second beast? In this passage, the mission of the second beast is to get everybody to worship the first beast. That's the point of the second beast, right? So when the King James Version, when the NIV says He exercises power on behalf of the first beast. It seems to be correct because it says he's causing those to worship the first beast. The mission of the second beast is to promote worship of the first beast. Whatever we think the mark of the beast is, the second beast is promoting the worship of that first beast, according to the Bible. Let's go on. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now, Adventists, and I suppose most people, they look at this and they conclude that these are, for some reason, in a symbolic passage, they understand this to be literal. This is why Adventists have said that the second beast represents Protestantism in America, Protestant America. Because they say, here you see miracles, and miracles are in the realm of religion. And so it's easy to come to this conclusion because they conclude that the first beast is the papacy. So the second beast is a similar kind of religious political power. So the second beast would represent Protestantism. So they are looking to people like Benny Hinn and Kenneth Copeland and people of that nature to perform great miracles to persuade everybody to worship the papacy. That's how they understand it. But a different thought came to my mind while I was looking at this and considering it, and I'm going to share my different thought, which we can consider, okay? Bearing in mind that this book is a book of symbols, and the symbols, almost always, the symbols don't mean what they say. You have to interpret them. Almost always, they mean something completely different from what you see before you. If you see a set of Jews, don't look for Jews. If you see Babylon, don't look for literal Babylon. If you see 7, don't look for literal 7. If you see 144,000, don't look for literal 144,000. I mean, some of these ideas that people may not agree with me 100%, but the point is that we are looking at a book of symbols. And so when it talks about fire coming down and doing great wonders, remember that this power we are looking at is identified as what? As a false prophet. It's identified as a false prophet. Whether it's a political power or not, the Bible calls it a false prophet. So the Bible is consistent and says that it begins to work miracles because that is what you expect of a prophet. But it does not mean that the miracles we are looking at are religious type of miracles. The point of this passage is that the second beast creates such develops such a great influence over people, does things that are so unexpected, it mesmerizes the minds of people by unexpected events. This is what I read it to be saying. The second beast mesmerizes the mind of people by unexpected and amazing events to the point where everybody begins to listen to the beast. That's the point. The point is things happen to make people begin to listen to the beast. That's the point. If you focus on the miracles as literal miracles, you might miss the point. The point is the second beast does something to make everybody begin to conform to what it wants. That's the point. And whatever means it uses to accomplish this end is described here in Revelation as being great wonders, great miracles. So it's whatever America is doing or whatever America does to convince people to go along with whatever she wants. This is what would constitute these miracles, in my opinion. Now, in verse 14.
Is it not happening, Brother David?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I believe it is happening, right? It depends on whether a person will accept this understanding or not. But I believe, based on my perspective, it is happening, very clearly happening. What everybody can agree on is that the American government, I don't even know if I am to say the government or whoever runs the country, is little by little, and not so slowly anymore, taking absolute control of the people. So it is happening. Now it says in verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So the second beast is about to do something. Let me read the last part of the verse first of all. It says, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword, and they did. This is his mission. His mission is to say to the people who live on the earth. And again, I am thinking that the earth here represents this part of the world where the beast arose, because the sea was specified for the first beast. What it is saying is that let us assume that America is correct. America is saying to the people who dwell in America and in this part of the world that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So people are being told to set up an institution like the beast. But how does he persuade people to do it? How does he persuade people to do it? Look at what he says. He deceives those who live on the earth by the means of the miracles which he had the power to do. All right, so his miracles persuade the people to do what he wants them to do. And what he wants them to do is to make an image of the beast. Why do people bend in accepting this system, the image of the beast? Is because they have been overwhelmed by the miracles. They have been overwhelmed by the power, by the ability of this beast to do things. It overwhelms them. And so they permit or they conform to the building of the image. All right, so let me read quickly through what else it says. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. He goes on to say, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, let me switch a little bit. I'm going to go to something else where I'm going to actually look at use some illustrations. I'm going to use some illustrations and just put the images on the screen so that we can kind of get the picture a little bit more clearly in our minds. All right. So I have here two illustrations representing the sea beast and the earth beast, which is sometimes referred to as the false prophet. Now, this beast on the left arises from the sea. And what we know about the beast on the left is that what we are looking at, this beast here, what we are looking at is not a moment of time. We are looking at this beast as something that covers many ages. And why do we say so? Because this beast on the left has 7 heads. And when you go to Revelation 17, it tells you that these 7 heads represent 7 different conditions, or 7 different ages, 7 different kingdoms, because it says they represent 7 kings, but 5 have gone, 1 exists, and 1 is still to come. So regardless of what time you want to give to these heads, the point is they represent stages in time. So this beast that we are looking at is not one power, or let me put it another way. It's not one kingdom. It's one power that goes through 7 different kingdom stages. This first beast, the sea beast, it's one power that goes through 7 different kingdoms, or 7 different stages. All right, so that's what we can say about the first beast. The second beast is different. This second beast has only one head. This second beast represents another kingdom or another power that arises specifically at a certain point in time. This is a young fellow in comparison to the first beast. All right, now the second beast instructs the people who dwell on the earth that they are to make an image of the first beast. Let me illustrate that here. All right, they are to make an image of the first beast. Let me switch that so it's facing the right way. All right, so this second beast instructs the people in his part of the world to make an image of the first beast. All right, so he creates something, he gets the people to create something that looks like the first beast. Now, of course, there are some things here that are not right. This image cannot have 7 heads because it would mean that he has set up a system that has 7 great kingdoms. Neither does it have 10 horns. There are elements of this first beast here that the image does not have. I don't think the image has the body of a leopard, the mouth of a lion like the first beast. So when the Bible says it makes an image of the first beast, it has to be in a specific area. Let me remove this from here and put something that I think better represents what we are looking at. All right, let me move it out of the way and I'll come. I think probably this might be a better representation. It's kind of similar to the first beast, but there are some things missing. The heads are missing and the horns are missing, and there's no color. You can't identify it as any kind of beast or anything. But it's still an image of the first beast. It's still an image of the first beast, but it misses some of the elements. So it's like the first beast in a specific way, and it is built by the 2-horned beast. So somewhere inside the area of the 2-horned beast, within the kingdom of the 2-horned beast, something is set up that looks like the first beast. And what I understand this to mean is that in the kingdom of the 2-horned beast, there is set up a system of government. This image of the beast represents a system of government that is similar to what we could find back in the days of the power of the first beast. The system of government is similar. It doesn't have the same heads, it doesn't have the same horns, it doesn't have the body of a leopard, the mouth of a lion. No, it would be kind of ridiculous to believe that this is what the image is. But it's an image because the characteristics, the nature of this first beast is replicated in the image. That is the way in which it is an image of the first beast. Let me pause a minute just to make sure that everybody understands what I'm saying. If you don't understand this, then stop me and just tell me what you don't understand. Brother
So,
Joel, go ahead.
what you're saying then, David, if I'm understanding you correctly, there is something about this beast in terms of how it fights against God. Not so much in terms of the dimensions, all the dimensions of it, in terms of the fact that it has gone through 7 stages with having these kingdom on horns. But what it does in fighting against God's people is still represented by this image in terms of what it really is at its core in its fight against God and God's people.
Absolutely. In other words, the fact that it images the beast is in a specific and a limited way. It doesn't image the beast in every aspect of the beast. If we start looking at the details of the beast and try to say the image has to have these details, then we'll be far off base. It's only an image of the beast in specifically in terms of how it begins to persecute God's people and the system that it sets up that facilitates and enables this persecution. I'm going to go back to my Bible and just read the last 3 verses here and focus on them. I'm going back to my image in just a moment, my graphics. Now it says, He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, again, I would say, let us consider that there are no words that are irrelevant or extraneous. If God says the mark is in the right hand, he intends to say something. And if he says it's in the forehead, he intends to say something. When you look at the people who receive the seal of God in their foreheads, you immediately, they have the Father's name in their foreheads. You immediately can understand what that means, and you can make associations. If the Bible says the mark of the beast is in the right hand or in the forehead, you immediately must make associations. In this regard, I tend to agree with the interpretation of Adventism that the hand represents you conforming to something, even though you might not necessarily agree with it. The mind, that forehead represents the mind. You conform with your hand. Your right hand, especially in the Bible, is used to symbolize what you make war with or what you work with, the place of your strength, the tool of your strength. While the forehead represents your mind and your thinking and your philosophies. So I would agree with Adventists that this signifies that some people believe in what the mark represents, and so they embrace it, while some people only cooperate with it. They may not necessarily agree with the philosophy behind it, but they cooperate with it. So in any case, everybody chooses to receive this mark, whether because they believe in it or because they just want to cooperate. Now, it says, no man might buy or sell except the person who had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. In the King James Version, it may not be that clear. In the NIV, it says, and we look at a few versions because I want to be sure that we kind of get the idea here. In the NIV, it says, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Now, I admit that this is something I didn't think of and I didn't see for a long time. I began to think that the mark, I first thought that the mark is different from the name, is different from the number. So you have three separate and distinct things. This translation here is suggesting something else. It's suggesting that they had the mark, which is the same thing as the name. So the name of the beast is the mark. Or you can have the number of its name. Okay, so you can have the name or the number of the name, which is the same as the mark. Now, if you look at a few other versions, it kind of it supports that idea. In the World English Bible, it says, unless he has that mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. It's not very clear there, but you have a few other translations. Look at what it says in the New English Translation. Thus, no one was allowed to buy or sell things unless he bore the mark of the beast, that is, his name or his number. So the mark of the beast, it says, is his name or his number, or the number of his name. And there are a few other translations. I won't look at all of them, but the point I'm making is that this suggests that the mark of the beast is also his name or his number. He goes on to say that the person with wisdom should count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 score and 6. Now I'm going to switch back to my other graphic. All right. So the question I want to ask is, to whom does the mark belong? Look at these two beasts. Who does the mark belong to? Is it the mark of the sea beast, or is it the mark of the earth beast? Let me take the let me remove the image, all right, because it kind of confuses the picture. I made my point about this. Let me kind of move this out of the way. All right, so we have these two beasts. Which of these two does the mark belong to? The second beast instructs everybody to receive a certain mark. And it specifies that this mark is the mark of the beast. Which beast is it? Is it this beast on the right, the earth beast? Is it the mark of the earth beast, or is it the mark of the sea beast? Now, I'm asking this question because people have all kinds of ideas about the mark, and I'm going to say this. Whatever the mark is, the first thing you have to do is identify the beast. Let's look again at what the Bible says about it. The Bible is very specific. It says, this is how the second beast gets everybody to worship the first beast. He causes everybody to receive a mark. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go to another passage in the Bible that kind of makes it even clearer than what we see here. Go to Revelation chapter 19. Look at Revelation 19 now, and it becomes clear whose mark it is. In verse 20, look at what verse 20 says. And the beast was taken. Which beast? Let's see. And with him, the false prophet that wrought miracles before him. So who is the beast? The beast is beast number one, the beast from the sea. The beast from the sea is taken. And with him, the false prophet that worked miracles before him, that is beast number two. With which he, who is the he? He, the false prophet, deceived those that had received the mark of the beast. It is the mark of the beast, not the mark of the false prophet. The mark of the beast is not an American mark. So here's the point I'm making, and I'm going to go back to my image, to my illustrations. Here's the point I'm making. The first question we have to ask when we're looking at the mark of the mark of the beast is a question: who is the beast? Who is the beast? That's the question, because whoever you say the beast is, that is the entity you are going to identify the mark with. Our question is the mark of the beast. Our focus is the mark. What is the mark? It's not the mark. It's not the mark. It's the mark of the beast. It's the mark of the beast. Look again at the Bible. It doesn't say that the beast compels everybody to receive a mark. It says compels everybody to receive the mark of the beast. All right, look what it says again. He causes everybody to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Nobody can buy or sell unless the person who has the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. What is the mark? It is the name of the beast, which is the number of his name. It's the name of the beast. Who is the beast? Who is the beast? You can't begin to ask the question, what is the mark, until you answer the question, who is the beast? Look here. If you're an Adventist, you will prove that the beast is the Roman Catholic Church, and so you'll come to Sunday worship. I respect you for your fair effort. You have made a fair effort. You have tried. Okay? I don't believe you can prove from the Bible that the Roman Catholic Church is the beast. I don't believe anybody can reasonably and honestly prove from the Bible, from the book of Revelation, that the beast is the papacy. No. Nor any of it says, not if we approach it properly. It's not the papacy, it's not the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is represented in Revelation, yes.
I want to get done first.
Can I ask a question?
I'm coming, Brother Tony. Give me a second. Let me show you something. Let me just illustrate something here. This is the place of the Roman Catholic Church in the book of Revelation. As a matter of fact, let me put this out of the way. No, okay, let me go ahead. This is the place of the Roman Catholic Church, or the papacy, however you want to put it, in the book of Revelation. It is riding the beast. It is riding the beast. The Roman Catholic Church in the book of Revelation is riding the beast. It is not the beast. It is whatever the woman is riding. It is whatever is riding the beast. It's a woman, all right? Somewhere in that woman you can find Roman Catholicism. It is not the beast. Now, so I'm making the point. Let me take this out of the way again. The point I'm making, brothers and sisters, is whatever you say the mark of the beast is, don't just say, here is a mark. Wow, it's the mark of the beast. Like you know, I mean, we have people who we understand who are excited about things, and they will say, they say that the microchip is the mark. They say that Bill Gates has a patent on 666, and this is the mark. Who is the beast? Is Bill Gates the beast? Whatever the mark is, you have to pin it to the beast. So before we say something is a mark, first of all, ask the question, who is the beast? Because the Bible is specific, it is a mark of the beast. It's not, the second beast institutes it, but it is not the mark of the second beast. The Bible is specific, it's a mark of the first beast. So you have to show us how this mark is the mark of the beast. And if you don't even know who the beast is, how are you going to identify the mark of the beast? What I'm really trying to say with us, brothers and sisters, is that we should be spared the lunacy that exists out there in the religious world, where people are jumping on every bandwagon and everything, every excitement that comes along. They say the mark of the beast. They pick a piece of the Bible. They pick a piece of the Bible. I have to mute everybody. There's something making noise. If you want to say something, I'll allow you in just a moment. They pick a piece of the Bible and they form a conclusion. And this is the way of people who don't study carefully. And we are not in that category. When you present something, if all the evidences don't line up, we can present the idea and we search to try to see how things fit together. But to begin to conclude that this is something, when the parts don't fit together, this is the method of other people. This is not our method. We don't operate like this. You can't just say, you know, like the world is crazy. All right, the Rastafarians, the Pentecostals, they come up with, they say that the beast is, at one time they said the beast was Kissinger. Another time they said it was Ronald Reagan. Those are crazy people. Those are people who just don't read their Bibles. They see a person resemble something the Bible says in one area, and they jump and they make a conclusion. This is not how we are supposed to understand the Bible. We are supposed to take point by point and put them together and match them together. And when we are finished, we have a complete picture. Now, I'm saying this because I know that there are many things that we are tempted to believe, because there's so much hysteria in the world. But everything that comes along, we need to consider carefully. So the first question is, who is this beast? Now, I know that in our age, it's one of the heads that we are focused on. Okay, one of the heads, because, well, maybe two of them, because 5 are stated clearly to have fallen. One is and one is not yet come. So we're focused on this, but ultimately, what is the identity of the beast? Because the beast is the underlying agent who has been behind all of these 7 heads. There are 7 heads, but one beast. And the mark is the mark of the beast. Who is this beast? Because the mark is the mark of this beast. It's not even the mark of any specific head. It's the mark of the beast. So anything that we conclude that has to do with the mark of the beast, make sure that first of all we identify the beast. When somebody says the United Nations is a beast, okay, this is a person who doesn't study. All right, I can sympathize with such a person. They don't study. Okay, if somebody says that the vaccine is a mark of the beast, I will say, who is the beast? Where do the vaccines come from? Is it from the United States? Then is the mark of the beast the mark of America? Is the beast that we are focusing on America? And if we say it's the papacy, then in what way is this thing associated with the papacy? What I'm saying really, I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong. I'm saying put the parts together in a way that show harmony with what the Bible is saying. The real question is, what is to be the key element in this system? What is to be the key element? This is the question that we're really focused on, that I don't think any of us have an exact answer to, including myself. But the question we're focused on is, what is to be that main point upon which this great persecution is to take place? Now, this point upon which the persecution is to take place will be the mark of the first beast. It will be something that you can pinpoint to the first beast. It will be something that belongs to the first beast, something that you can look at and say, this is the face of, or the name of this first beast. Remember, it says that the mark of the beast is the what? It's the name of the beast. The mark is the name of the beast. So if this first beast, whatever this first beast is, his mark is to be his striking characteristic. It's to be a striking characteristic of the first beast. If you say it is Europe, it has to be a striking characteristic of Europe. If you say it is the United Nations, it has to be a striking characteristic of the United Nations. If you say it is the papacy, it has to be a striking characteristic of the papacy. And then along with that, you have to prove how the beast is a papacy, or the beast is the United Nations, or the beast is Europe. You see, everything should come together in a way that what we are saying fits the facts.
Brother David.
Yes, brother
Brother
Aye.
David.
Um,
Brother Aye, and
okay,
then brother.
okay. Yeah, well, you are saying that the mark of the beast need to be something specific. But when we say that the mark of the beast is also the name of the beast, then it shouldn't be something very specific. Like if we say that God's name is in the forehead of those who worship him, and we know that the name of God is the character of God, then the mark of the beast, in contrast, should be the character of the beast. It doesn't have to be something very specific. For that reason, for me, I believe that the mark of the beast is the character of the beast, is anything that is coming from the beast and that is contrary to the will of God. And that is going to be forcing people to go against their conscience. And that is the character of the beast. The beast, God does not force us to worship him, but the beast will force us anything. It's for that reason I never excluded the mandate. The mandate is not, but the mandate is a part of the character of the beast. So anything that will come that way is the character, whether or you accept it and you are in, like you are free, you can do whatever you want, or you refuse it, and then you will be persecuted. That's my point.
Okay, thank you,
Yield.
brother Aye. I'm coming here, brother lad, and I agree with you to some extent. in the sense that I agree that the name of the beast is 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 not very specific, and yet it is specific. And I'll explain what I mean. The Bible tells you that the beast has on him the names of blasphemy. And I agree that blasphemy can come in several forms. So in this sense, it is not specific. But blasphemy is not hatred. So it's specific. Blasphemy is not there are several things blasphemy is not, and so therefore blasphemy is specific in that sense. Okay. So I agree and I disagree. Now, here's the other thing I want to say. Hold on and mute your mics, please. Brother Lad is next. Here's the other thing, Brother Aye. If you make the mark so general, it will fit anybody. If you don't, if it's not specific, then how is it the mark of the beast? Because it's also the mark of America. It's also the mark of Russia. It's also the mark of North Korea. But the Bible is specific that the mark is the mark of the beast. So it has to be some way that you can pinpoint it to the beast, but to nobody else. So it's specific. It has to be specific in that way. If it's not specific in that way, then it is pointless. It means nothing. It doesn't make any sense to pinpoint it as the mark of the beast if it is everybody else's mark. So
Okay.
this is why I'm saying that the fact that it belongs to the beast is a part of the identifier of the mark. So you can't generalize it to the point where it fits everybody or everything.
Well, Brother David, why it won't fit everybody if everybody else is worshiping the beast? If all other government are set up according to the principle of the beast, then it will fit them, Brother David. Okay, let's say that is homosexuality. If all those governments are set up according to Europe, they will accept Europe and they will force people to go their way.
Okay,
Everybody else is following the beast.
let me explain what I mean, brother Ayayi. If I mention evolution as the mark of somebody, where would your mind go? What would you think? Who would you think of?
I'll think of Darwin.
Thank you. In other words, uh, even though evolution has spread all over the world, we look for its source. There has to be some way that it is pinpointed to a certain person because of the specifics of how it started. It is outstandingly Darwin's philosophy, at least as far as we know. Okay, so what I'm saying is that even if the principles of the mark spread over the world, you have to be able to trace it back and say, this is the root of it, this is where it started. It has to be peculiar to the beast in some way. Otherwise, to say it is the mark of the beast is meaningless. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, Brother David, it's
Yes, brother.
for that reason I never ever excluded the possibility of Sunday, because Sunday does not come from Catholic Church. Sunday is from the beast. Sunday is the worship in Rome, the decree of Constantine. We know the Catholic Church is a forgery, is a fraud. Sunday
Okay.
comes from Rome. So it's
Yes.
why I never excluded that.
Right. Okay, brother. Fair enough. I mean, there are other things about that I would bring up, but I don't want to get dragged off into side issues. It's not just the fact that it is characteristic of all these nations, but there are other elements as well. But let me allow brother Lad to go ahead.
David,
Yeah, hang on, brother Joel. Brother Lad was before you, and
Okay.
go where I can actually see the names or who is unmuting the mic because I would like us to do this in an orderly way. Go ahead, brother Lad.
Okay. First, I've not really studied uh, a lot in Revelations to have a informed opinion, and I've been around Adventists and I've heard a lot about this topic. So the way you're presenting things, it seems like you make a good case for the Sunday idea that they traditionally hold to. And when I look in the Bible and Revelations, when I have studied it, I've tried to find first some explanation of the symbols in the Bible before I found it in history. That's my method, at least. I thought it seemed fair and safe. And I know that the Adventists present that the Sabbath is a sign or a mark. So they establish somehow a biblical principle of the symbol would be if a beast comes along and creates an image, what would be the image of this holy day or this mark that God did? And again, that makes sense biblically for Sunday. Now, like I say, I don't camp out on any particular interpretation or what the mark is. My question in saying that with what you've presented, the at least the Adventist biblical identification of God's mark, an image being something similar to that. Is there anything else in the Bible that leans towards something more substantial, at least as substantial as the Sunday idea? Is there anything else that the Bible leans towards that could be the mark other than the traditional papal Sunday idea? That's my comment.
Yeah, I'll answer you very quickly, Brother Lad, because it's going to drag us off topic if I do more than answer you briefly. But I personally
Okay.
believe there is better evidence for other things, and I can link you to the video where I actually, or the videos where I actually examine it. I won't go into it this afternoon. I know my position is controversial like everybody else's. It's questionable. In other words, there are elements in it that maybe are not fully clarified like every other idea, but I think it fits what the Bible says far more fully than anything else. This is my honest conclusion. I think the Bible gives you clear clues that point in the direction of what I believe. So that's what I will say, and it makes far more sense than Sunday observance. I mean, people are always biased towards their position, so you have to factor that in. I'm not going to be biased against what I believe, otherwise I wouldn't have a clue what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah. But if you wish, I'll give you the link to the videos, right? All right, blessings. I don't know if anybody has the time to put them in the chat for me. Brother Joel and then Sister Diane.
Um, Not to preempt you, David, in any way, because I suspect that you have a position that you're wishing to share with us in terms of what is common to this beast, the first beast, that can be represented in its 7 stages, which we would then find as the common thing that runs throughout this entire beast in its opposition to God and his people. I can't accept Sunday from this point of view because in all the stages, we would not have had Sunday worship. As I mean, even though there was sun worship in some sense as the main form of paganism, that would have been running through in terms of the sun god through all the different entities in some way and form. But what I suspect more is where we should be looking is what we can see coming up in Europe, as if we do believe that this first beast is more so represented by Europe and coming out of Europe, based on what you have said in terms of whatever this mark or this image and this name is something that has to be represented by what it now stands as its representation now as the seventh head, and how it can be seen as being represented in the sixth head that went before. The only thing, David, that I can see when I look at it, and I don't know that I am right, is humanism in its representation of man lifting up himself into the position of godhood. It can be seen throughout all of these different 5 heads as you have described them in your own words in terms of how they understood the authority of what God was. And if we take a look at Europe today in terms of what we see happening, we can find that humanism and the lifting up of man as a central authority over God as being where we seem to be heading. So I suspect, just looking at it from my point of view, where I am now, as I think about everything that you're saying, as being the focal point that stands throughout all the ages as what is the entity or the main representation of what stands in opposition to there being only one God to whom we should give all of our adoration and our praise.
Yeah. Yes, brother Joel, and let me just phrase it a little bit differently from how you put it, but in agreement with you. The 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 mark, the hallmark of the beast in all ages. Everybody will agree with this. The hallmark of the beast has been disrespect of God and defiance of God. Anything you identify the beast to be, this has been the mark. Defiance of God and disrespect for God. Okay? Now, here is the point. There is a passage in the Bible that we looked at last week, I believe, where the Apostle Paul clearly states that the mark of disrespect and rejection of God is the development of a homosexual society. The Bible says so clearly in Romans chapter 1 that the mark of a rejection of God is the development of a homosexual society. People, hang on a second. Brother Joel, you need to mute. Yeah. Men turn to sexual relations with men and women with women. The Bible says so clearly. The name of the beast is blasphemy. Okay, blasphemy is barefaced defiance of God. This has been the mark of Satan's kingdom. Satan's kingdom is the beast. This has been its mark over the ages, and the hallmark of that kind of attitude is homosexual behavior. Okay, so somewhere inside of that will emerge the practice that will characterize those, either the practice or the agreement with those who have the mark. I mean, this is my theory. Like I say, there are things about it that don't have a clear answer. So I pointed out last week, I'm not set in stone, but at the same time, biblically, it fits the biblical specifications better than anything else that I can see. Brother Joel, you apparently want to say something.
So you don't see I see a close relationship between humanism and the homosexual relationship. I think it is man's desire for one own's body in terms of what God has created, in terms of where we should have our greatest desire. As a part of the humanism concept, I don't see it outside of that. I see it as very much a part of it. So I hear what you're saying, David, but I don't separate the two. I see them as one part of the same entity.
Okay, all right. Sister Di, go ahead.
One of the things that I see is that Adventists have, okay, I don't want to say, but Adventists have taken the position and that of Sunday just by I don't know the word, because of their position with the Sunday thing, they've come up with this is what it is, the opposite. But the Bible is clearly specific in Revelation that the seal of God is the Father's name in your forehead. He stamps his name in the forehead of his people saying, these are mine. So any kind of branding that identifies somebody or something that belongs to somebody, their seal is on it. And instead of accepting that because they've got to deal with the Sunday thing, they go and say it's the day of worship, but that's nowhere in the Bible. And when you present Revelation saying the seal of God is the Father's name in your forehead, they reject it because they come up with the seal. It has his name in the fourth commandment, da, 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 but that is not the seal. He tells you what the seal is and then we reject it. And because they've conjectured this day to fit the opposite of the Sunday thing to make it the seal. And I've heard pastors when you bring this to their attention, they reject it outright. But here's scripture, and then you're conjecturing with these other scriptures. So I just think that's interesting.
All right, thank you, Sister Diane. There's no question that the beast system is a worshiper of, Brother Joel said, humanism. It's a worshiper of the human way. The beast system is focused on human control and authority. There are many things in which this is manifested, and one of them is in the imposition of the vaccines upon people. All right, so all of these are elements. I fully agree. I fully agree that all of these are elements of the developing global system of control. What I would like us to do is to be specific that the mark of the beast must be tied to the beast. It must be tied to the beast. So let us be clear about who we understand the beast to be. If we say it's a papacy and we can demonstrate that, then fine, pin the mark to the papacy. If we say it's the United Nations and we can prove that, then fine, find a way to pin the mark to the United Nations. If we say it's Europe, find a way to pin it to Europe and our argument becomes more credible. That's what I'm saying. But let us not be people who just, we see something happening and it seems to fit the specifications in one area and we form a conclusion. Let us get all the elements together first before we because look, the thing is, brothers and sisters, whatever we conclude, we have a message to give to the world. We have a message to give to the world. One of our brothers, a brother of mine who is absolutely convinced that the vaccines constitute the mark of the beast. Okay, he's not saying it's a part of the developing system. He believes it is the mark. Okay, and he's very concerned about people like me because I am not carrying that message. Okay, and he's trying to carry this message. And I asked him this question. I said, if this is true, where is the great awakening? Where is the great awakening? I said, if you believe this, you are supposed to be working night and day to wake up the world. Because if this is the mark, it is the end of time. Why are you still in your job? Why are you still sitting at home? Why are you still living life as in the same ordinary way? Where is the great awakening if this is it? Now, this is not the ultimate proof because somebody might say, well, you should be going. I can't go about something that I'm not convinced with all my heart. I believe that when the mark of the beast comes, there is to be 3 angels that fly in the midst of heaven, and that the earth is to be lightened with the glory of God. I don't believe it's going to be something so ambiguous and so questionable that people sit in their living rooms and talk about it. I think it's going to be something that drives us out of our comfort zone, which is why I still can say that I'm not certain of what it is. We are looking, but all the facets are not in place that you can say this is it or that is it. But in the meantime, whatever we want to share with people, Brother Arthur, your mic is very noisy. I see you. All right, I'll let you go in just a moment. Whatever we want to share with people, we need to get our ducks lined up. We need to get things lined up in such a way that you can say, this fits, this fits, this fits. Then we can have a consistent message. That's what I'm really saying. The mark is not vague. We should be able to recognize it. We should be able to say, this is the mark. Otherwise, there is a chapter in the Bible that is a waste of time. If it is so vague that you can't identify it, what's the point? It has to be identifiable. So it's not general rebellion against God that is the mark. No, it's not general rebellion. Otherwise, the mark was there in every situation where people stood up against God. No, it's something specific, and that is what I am trying to say. Let's not generalize what God has made specific. Yes, is it Brother Al? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to. I agree with you that the mark of the beast is something that's very specific. But at the end times, I see, from what we're reading, I see 3 groups of people. One group receives the mark of the beast. One group received the seal of God. Then there's a middle group that doesn't receive either one. Okay, that's the ones that I think that Jesus says, "Depart from me, I never knew you," because they're not following the mark of the beast. They're the ones going to be killed, but don't know what the seal of God is, so they're not accepting the seal of God either. And that's where Jesus says, "Depart from me, I never knew you."
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, brother Al. I can agree with you if we look at the world as it is generally, but here is my objection to this. Okay, I think that in the end of time, the mark of the beast, the purpose why God allows it to come, because God allows it to come. According to the Bible, the reason why God allows that crisis to come is to try those who dwell on the earth. The Bible is specific that the plagues will fall upon those who do not have the seal of God. It's specific that the only person who do not worship the beast and receive his mark is the 144,000. So at the end of time, I agree that there are three categories today, and maybe right up until the very end. But when the crisis comes, it's like you sit an exam, and everybody's either going to pass or fail, and you either get a passing grade or a failing grade. There's a mark that fails you, and there's a mark that passes you. To understand why I would insist on this is to understand the nature of the final crisis. It's not simply something that incidentally comes upon the world. It is something that was planned and designed ages ago, and God has a purpose in this mark of the beast crisis. He's going to separate his people from the people of the world decisively, visibly, decisively and visibly, which is one of the reasons why I don't think anybody can accidentally receive the mark. You make a choice, and you make a choice for eternity. That's the nature of the crisis. But anyway, we have run out of time. We are way past our time.